What is that journey? What does that look like? And then talking about the stigma, how do we remove that stigma? How do we be in a space where people feel comfortable talking about their status? People feel comfortable being around people who are okay with talking about their status, because that's one of those things that we know is not always common. And so I'd like to just take an opportunity to allow you all to introduce yourselves and then talk a little bit about yourself, and then we'll just have a conversation. So we'll start with you, Mikhail.
My name is Michael Washington. I'm a patient navigator here at AOC. Been positive for about 15 years, I think. Yeah, so the journey has been long. It's been a little rough. You go through different phases with it, and but you learn how to grow and develop and move on. And that's what I did. And I just want to encourage, uplift people, inspire people, let people know that it's okay. You can still live. You can still live a healthy, a good life. So
when I first told him, he would not want to embrace me, because I guess he felt like if I touched him, and that was very hurtful, but I was okay with that, because I know who he is. But I think that what she was saying on the educational part as a whole, we need to put more out there, because I don't think people know that you can't get it from a hug. You can't get it from even a kiss. There's ways of getting this that I don't think people realize. And I think they just stuck on the 3 letters and not underlining what it really actually is. So I think so he's getting a little bit better. But I think he's probably, because he likes to read sources and read over the years. I just kind of let him alone. I didn't, just love him through it. You know what I mean? Because, you have to identify who they are in the first place. And I just loved him through it. But there are other people who are like that, who really don't know, what it actually is, and that this is not a way to get it. You can still love and support the person through it. But it needs to be educated, and people need to be educated, and they're not going to go out there and educate themselves. Right. It has to be something that's put out there that maybe make them open their eyes to see, or make them open their eyes to say, okay, this is what this really is. It's not what I thought it was.
The journey was hard. I didn't want to talk about it to people, but once I got comfortable and I educated my mom and my other family and my friends on it, I don't have a problem with telling anybody I'm positive, and I encourage people to always get tested. Just it's better to know not to know than not to know. It's not even just with HIV, just living with anything, because you could be diabetic, you can have to take insulin, you can have to take anything, high blood pressure. So my mom was there through a lot of it, and I was like, I don't feel like I should have to take a pill every day to live. She was like, well, look at me, I got to take a blood pressure pill every day. That helps me keep living too. So that's what I do. I just educate myself on it, and I keep it pushing. It was hard, but I'm going.
Yeah, that's a serious perspective. I take a blood pressure pill to keep living every single day. So yeah.
What do you think, as an organization, we should be doing in the African American community, regardless of who it is that is on this walk? What should that look like?
Well, from what I know is going on today, I think that you are on that journey that was first envisioned those many years ago. And that is the Resource Center. But it's about education as well. Not only of what it is that you're going through from the perspective of what we've seen come through, that gives a lot of information for other people. You can prepare better for what comes through the door, because these people have come through the door and all the other ones before them.
I think the target population should be black women. It's a whole lot of black women who have HIV. And they fall under the radar. They don't talk about it. You don't see them, but they have it.
I think we definitely got to promote self-love when we're going out into the community too, because hurt people hurt people. Yeah. And that's what's going on. Is people just hurting people because they're hurt on the inside. A lot of times people don't express themselves freely on the outside, and so they have all this energy balled up, and they don't know how to express it. You got to express it.
Mm-hmm. I think that and just letting people know that it's okay. You know, it's not the end of the world, and just for people to share their stories, because it's a lot of people that probably have a lot of stories. Well, I know have stories about how it affected them and how they went through. So I think sharing our stories, like especially us four, and letting them know how we went through it and look how strong we are, and to know that it's okay and it's a lot of resources out here, even if you're not positive, that we can help you so you don't catch it. You know, just letting people know that it's okay, it's not a death sentence, and there's a lot of resources out here for you, whether you're positive, negative, with anything.
How do we tell people that this is real, that this is still here, it's not gone away, it's not just affecting men, but it's affecting women, and our clients are getting younger and younger, and versus, older and being able to understand. How do we tell that story? I was just on a call this morning with someone from TCC, talking about February 7th is National Black HIV AIDS Day, and wanting to do a program and having that person say, I hadn't thought about that. But you have a whole health system, on your campus. So how do you even help those young people who are going through, and they are our next nurses and medical assistants and dentists and doctors? Really, there's a whole other thing that is happening out here, and it's not just what you read in a textbook.
Right.
This is a real lived experience. How do we keep putting that message out there? Because I'm asking you all now, because really that's going to be our plan for 2022. How are we going to be out there in the community in a bigger way? We're starting tomorrow at a church.
Mm-hmm. I'll be there.
Yeah, just having a conversation with some kids, and the parents are antsy, but you're like, baby, your kids are doing some things that you have absolutely no idea what is going on, and they're growing up in church.
As women, because there are so many African American women who have contracted HIV because their partner was on the down low. Mm-hmm. But these are also the ladies that sing in the choir, they usher, they're the hospitality committee, they cook food, they do First Sunday. I mean, but the church doesn't want to have that conversation.
As someone who's not religious but was brought up in the church, for me, as a person that's trying to take personal responsibility for their health and wellness, recognizing how shame plays a role in my life and how different institutions have aided in making me feel shameful about any and everything, how fear plays a part in how I make my decisions on how I go about anything. If we look at how the Black community treats health and wellness, period, how often are people getting their prostate checked? When do you start getting your mammograms? When was the first time you got your pelvic exam? I know I wasn't even allowed to get a pelvic exam until I was starting to have sex. I was a person who wanted to know my baseline. I've never done anything. Can I get a report? And then, no, not until you have sex. Can I have my first pelvic exam? Makes no sense. But it's looking at the institution, I think, at a bigger, in a bigger perspective would be a different thing. So it's there are a lot of people that turn to the church, but then recognizing it's how does the church deal with dispelling shame in today's sermon? How is the church dealing with dispelling fear out of who you deserve, who you decide to like worship, who you decide to have faith in, because that in turn will go into, well, I'm afraid to say this, or well, I don't understand what you're doing, and that's of the no, and it's like, it's not of the devil. Just go see a doctor. Like, just get on Prozac. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I love that.
Like, there are things, like, if we're gonna say like, well, God created it. Okay, well, he created the people that did the work to create these medications so that you can be okay.
Right.
Like, he created the vaccine so you ain't got to get measles no more. So what are we doing? Like, you ain't got polio. Why? So it's just these things of like, well, yeah, like, how are we still dealing with shame in general? Like, how do we deal with our health in general? Mm-hmm. And then looking at now, how can we like specifically deal with this thing that like is notoriously associated with like sex workers, like Marshanae said, like specifically like Black trans women, like just this idea of like, well, you have to be this type of person, an addict, or dirt, like all these things. And it's like, I think a lot of people are finding benefit in having like people talk about their experiences, because it's like kind of breaking down this like, oh, well, it could be anybody, but like you can get allergies at any point in your life. You know what I mean? Like,
I am not living with HIV, but I'm married to someone who is. So it's been a journey for me. It was scary at first, I'm not gonna lie. It was, because I didn't know. I wasn't educated on it. So the stigma that came along with it was hard too at first. But I had to just cope with it and deal with it and educate myself about it. And once I did that, it became a little easier as time went on. Will's laughing. Yeah, because I mean, at first, you know, all of the years, and y'all know, being in the lifestyle, you run from it. I ran from it from as soon as I got it, as 19? I was running from it. And then when I met this man who said he had it, and I was like, oh, wow. So that was a little different for me. So it took me a minute, but I'm in. I'm all in. I'm even doing the work. I'm even the case manager, so.
We need more people to come out and talk about their personal experiences, especially our Black families. Most Black families are worried about what others think. So if someone in your family finds out that you have someone that's HIV positive, they don't want anyone to know because they're still worried about what society thinks, and it's not.
This house stays in this house.
Yeah, right. And I wish more Black families would be more into leaving the whole, oh, well, let's hush it up and just not say anything, and we can probably get this thing under control.
The reverse of transparency.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I was diagnosed in 2012. It was a little different for me. And the reason why I say it was a little different is because that was my first time experiencing discrimination with my family. And so I decided that I didn't want anyone else to feel like that. And I decided that I might have to do something about it. And the only thing that people hear about being HIV positive is the negative aspect. So I decided I wanted to become an advocate. And I just hit the ground running. And, you know, a lot of people, they don't have that support system. And so I just wanted them to know you don't have to go through this by yourself. You know, you can be healthy, live a long life, and as long as you just do what you need to do. And it's pretty much some of our youth, because we don't have this conversation, because people were scared to talk about it. So I wanted to normalize it and just say, it's okay, I'm positive. And well, you don't look positive. I didn't know that it had a look. You know, I didn't know. Right.
Only pregnant has a look. Only pregnant has a look.
Right. So, you know, I just...
And then that's questionable sometimes, yeah.
So I just wanted to break that stigma.
Yeah.
And, you know, kick in the doors and, you know, have that conversation in my community at home. I had to educate my parents. At first, they was just like, don't tell anyone. I don't think that you need to work in this field because I don't want anyone to know your status. And I was like, well, I don't care about it. I think I'm the one that's living with it, and, you know, you should just support me and let me do what I'm gonna do. And I've been doing it ever since, and I want to continue to do it, you know?
I did have a family member that succumbed to HIV and had a difficult time with that knowledge. A lot of denial and a lot of inability to accept what was going on with them. And it was kind of a hard situation to work in with that. And I helped that person out a lot with getting the resources necessary for a healthier lifestyle than they were living at the time. But because of their denial, that did not work out for my family member or myself, because the denial kept them from accepting the resources and accepting the knowledge and taking my meds, and being cognizant of the fact that doing certain things were better than doing these other things over here. And eventually my family member passed away. Not in a way that I would have wanted, but nevertheless. So I know that the organization provides a lot of resources, whatever it is, medical, food, housing, companionship of a sort if you want, because there are other people like yourself, whatever your situation is, going through that. If you are open to receiving that input and just camaraderie, I'll use that word, you can eclipse a lot of different challenges and barriers that you would stumble over not having that sort of a resource like AOC.
But I've been working here though. The clients get younger and younger.
Yeah.
And you end up saying, these are babies because they babies, you know what I mean? And so I do hug them a lot. I do. I do. You have almost like nurturing because they don't have the family. They don't. Their parents didn't put them out. They living from couch to couch. They haven't had a bath. They don't have clothes. They haven't eaten. So when they come in, this is like a one-stop shop. You have to meet them where they are. You have to love on them a little bit. You got to feed them. And then you have a conversation. Because you have to establish that relationship to say, look, I'm here for you. Because when they come in the door, they guard it. It's a wall up and you know it. You see it. You know what I mean? And they're not going to tell you everything until they feel comfortable. So you have to really work your way. And I'm going to use you as an example. You're not a hugger like that. You know what I mean? So somebody like you got to be real careful with. You know what I mean? You got to be like, okay, well, let me see how I'm going to meet him where he is. Yeah.
And Kelly said that particular day, I said, this baby need a hug, but I'm not really a hugger. So when a person come in, I can kind of just feel them out, and I'm like, I know exactly who you need to work with. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like the big brother, daddy type. Okay, you know what you need to do. You know, and some people need that. But then there's other people that need, oh baby, come here, sweet baby. You know, that's what they need.
Even the straight men need that. Yeah. Some have hugged me and just broke all the way down. And you be like, wow, you've been holding that. Yeah.
I guess my association with the AOC started with trying to find a place where I could get like free STI testing, and having like a reliable place that they would like actually take the time to educate me and like give me the resources I needed to continue to live how I wanted to live my life. I've had a few friends that have like, I think gone to the AOC as well, but going into COVID is when I started to like medically transition. So I was on the wait list with the Trans Wellness Clinic. So that's just, I guess, deepened my appreciation for the center, just because I am a person that, not that I know anything about like what's right or anything like that. As I learn things that take away stigma, that take away shame, that take away guilt around these things that are like very human, that are, it's not thought of the same way that it used to be in a different generation. So just getting people to understand where, and I really like that you said it's like this. I mean, I take my medication, and just like I do with diabetes, I do with this, because we're human and there's just things that we deal with, and it shouldn't have any more shame, whether you have like high blood pressure, whether you have asthma, like none of these things, even though they're hard to like, you know, get medical assistance for these things, but like, you know, it's still something that like you prioritize your health, you prioritize like your wellness. And I just appreciate the AOC for that, because it has strengthened my ability to like help other people find their way, where it's like, well, if you didn't know that you can get Truvada from, you know, AOC, they have resources for that. If you didn't know that, like, yeah, you can get all of these tests for free, baby, free, like free 99.9. Like, you know,
got 99 problems, but medicine ain't one.
I went to a youth camp when I was 19 years old, and I was the oldest teenager there because I went late, but they let me in. And so I met my best friend there, and he was born with it, you know. And most of it was about 50 awesome kids there, and most of them were born with it. It was like 3 of us that were sexually involved with it. And so they taught me a lot. Like, y'all can get up and y'all can live every day, and y'all was born with this, and y'all didn't have no control over it. I can do this too. So that's where my help came from.
Everyone says when you start talking about HIV, and they say, well, people still get HIV? That's still around? You're thinking, not only is it around, you know, we're in the middle of a pandemic with COVID, but we also in the middle of a pandemic with HIV. You know, where have you been?
The information is there. Mm-hmm. We know people are not going to read. Mm-hmm. And now we are such an in-your-face kind of group of people that these kinds of conversations work. Facebook Live works. We've been having testing events, and it has been very amazing to me, the number of people. So like today, we were at Le Grand Plaza. The number of people who pulled up, wanted to know what we were doing, and then said, oh, no, I don't want to do that. Okay. Well, you know, we're not going to pull you out your car to do it, but wouldn't you feel better?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you just feel better if you knew your status? Whatever it is, whatever it may be. And so I've been having this conversation with the ministers. And it has been very interesting, because I've had some ministers who's like, yes, I want my church to be a part of that conversation. How do we partner with you? But then I've had some ministers who've just been silent. Like, yeah, that's a good thing. And then the conversation moves on to the next thing.
I had a preacher, a minister, call me, and I guess I'd been here maybe about a month. And he called to tell me that I needed to be ashamed of myself being in a place working where we're giving out medicine, PrEP medicine, to young men, and that PrEP medicine is affecting their liver, their kidneys, and their hearts. And I should just really be ashamed that I am killing young African American men. So I said, so you're concerned. Help me understand this. Let me pull this in. You're concerned about the PrEP medicine. You're concerned that it is messing with their liver, their kidneys, and their heart. So you're not concerned that so many of these young men are homeless, they're hungry, they need help. You know, you're not concerned that many of these young men haven't disclosed their status, They're sleeping with men. They're also sleeping with women, and they're sleeping with women who believe that they are in a heterosexual monogamous relationship, and the person that they are with is not telling anybody. So we have a whole group of women who are now the leading number of newly diagnosed cases of HIV in Tarrant County and across the nation. But you feel like I should be concerned with the PrEP medicine that's messing with somebody's liver, their kidney, and their heart. That's what you're telling me, preacher. That's where we are tonight. I said, okay. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and because I am a preacher's kid, we're just gonna go and get off the phone. Cause this conversation, I got about 5 things that I want to say, and they all start with a word that's probably not gonna mean we're gonna be friends when we end this conversation. But that's what we have out in the community, and that's the message that is being put out there. It's the medicine. It's not the medicine.
But you know what the truth of the matter is, and this is just, across the board, women, men, just across the thing about it is, everyone doesn't have everything, So it's called survival. And so by any means necessary. And when you in that mode, you're not thinking about protection. You're thinking about, well, you know what, I need a place to stay. Or I need some clothes. Or I need some money. I need to eat. So you're not thinking about that. So showing a person how to be healthy while living this lifestyle or doing this, this is why we're here. Yeah. Meeting them where they are, not judging. We having the conversation, well, if this is what you're doing, let me show you how to be safe doing this. Versus going somewhere and somebody's looking at you cross-eyed because you're a prostitute, or they're looking at you cross-eyed because you on drugs. It's, come here, we got you.
But we have to bridge that gap between us and the church.
Right.
Because that's where the roadblock is the church, the black church. Because the black church will make you feel real bad. I went in there and sat down, and as soon as I sat down, you could tell he keyed right in on me. So I politely just got my little Bible, and I left. I said, not today. So yeah, we have to fix that.
We have to do better.
We got to fix that.
Because it's just, if a person just was diagnosed and their self-esteem is low, and you run into the church because that's where you're taught to go.
Right.
This is your safe place. Everybody's we're gonna pray for you, we're gonna do this to get you to where you need to be. And they turn their nose up at you.
And you can't be over no auxiliary. Yeah. Don't even go in there thinking you finna do that.
Well, you can play the piano.
That's it. The minister of music.
That's it. That's all you got.
I found out I was positive back when I was about 19 years old, 20 years old, so I was very young. And I was going to the doctor just for a regular checkup, and they asked me if I wanted to take a random HIV test. I'm like, sure, no problem. So, I'll take the test and everything, and they start calling people and everything. And so after everyone left, I'm like, I'm the last person. And it was very traumatizing at that point, just finding out that you're HIV positive. I was lost, confused, embarrassed, ashamed. Even though I knew I was with one person, the world is crazy, and the stereotypes and the stigma around being Black, being trans, and being HIV positive was a lot to take in and absorb. And I stayed to myself for a very, very, very long time. Me being 36 now, I recently just told my family. They were always supportive of me, even as a kid, growing up. I've just had a good life, so I'm just happy to be here still. And even though society says what they says about trans women, we are all not the same. We are all different. I've never escorted. I never had to do anything strange for a piece of change. Right. I've always had a job. So that stigma about trans women is a lie. Mm-hmm. You know, because I'm a living witness. Like, I'm here. I've always had a job. You know, I'm positive.
Even when you didn't want one.
Even when I didn't want that. Yeah, that part.
Yeah. So, what was it like telling your family? Or have you told your family? Let's say that. Because if not, let's move on.
No, I have. Telling my family was very hard because at that time I was going through identity crisis as well. I was trying to figure out who I was too. And so going to my mom, I just went to her and I was like, Mom, I think I need to go to the doctors. Something is different. And I don't know what it is, but I felt like something was different. And like months later, I got sick with pneumonia. And then I was out of school for about a month, almost. And it was my senior year, and I told my mom, and she was just like, okay, we'll take you to the doctor. So she took me to the doctor. We got tested. I got tested for HIV or whatever. It came back positive. I just sit there quietly. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what kind of emotions to, react on or what. I just appalled. I was like, okay. My mom started crying. She didn't understand. She was like, what have you been doing? Because she didn't know what I was doing. Because, my family is very religious. Come from a Kojic family. So, like, they don't really play about, homosexuality and all that. So it was kind of hard just, telling her everything and my whole family. And so she didn't believe it at first, so she took me to 2 other doctors and got me tested 2 more times, and then she finally let it settle on in, and it settled in with me, and I kind of just went into like a deep depression for about 5-6 months, and I didn't want to talk to nobody and stuff like that, and that's kind of been the basis of everything over the years. I kind of went in and out of depression and anxiety and stuff like that, and I was already like a hard kid as a kid. Like, I had a little hard life because I was alone. I didn't like people, so I was to myself. Like, so I always been kind of like quiet and reserved. Like, I'm a people watcher, so I like to watch people and I like to see why they do and act a certain way and why I got bullied too. So that was a lot of the reason I had kind of like a hard life growing up. And people will look at me today and be like, you got bullied? I don't believe it. Well, it's true, man. It's true. I did. Handsome don't always mean that you're going to be likable. You know what I'm saying? So I learned that lesson. But, yeah, my mom has been a great support system. She jumped in head on and was like, son, it's okay. She even gave me some tough love and was like, because it was times where I felt like I was hard on myself and like I felt like nobody would like me anymore or want to deal with me and stuff. And she would be like, son, well, you can't blame nobody but yourself. You can blame the other person because they didn't tell you, but you got to blame yourself too because it's just as much as your fault as it is theirs. And I was like, Mom, you're right. And she's like, I know you don't want to hear that, but like I had to tell you the truth because I'm your mom. And
shout out to Mama.
Yeah, that's settled with me.
For keeping it real.
Yeah, that's settled.
I was diagnosed back in 2008. I had been divorced maybe a year. It was like the worst feeling I'd ever felt when the doctor, called me and told me about my status. So I was fearful of speaking out a lot of times from the stigma, from my daughter not knowing at an early age. I felt like I did a great accomplishment with her because she was very accepting to it. And when I was first diagnosed, I didn't even want to live. Mm-hmm. I didn't know how to fathom what had gone on, even though as an adult, you put yourselves in certain positions, so you have to be accountable for your own actions just as well as what happened, because it was just a disaster as the way it happened, you know. So, but I'm here to say that it was a long 5 years of trying to deal with it, but I have had a great support system and still do.
Yeah.
So that was the best thing, and you can overcome it. You can.
Well, as we bring this to a close, you have any parting words you want to share? Any more words of wisdom?
I would just say, just know it's okay. With not even just with this, just within just life, everything is going to be okay, and you can always come to AOC. We'll be here.
We will be here. The doors will be open.
I'll just say, you have HIV. HIV doesn't have you. You know, and live your life.
I would say, go ahead, what you think?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I would just say love yourself. Come get tested regularly and talk about it.
Yeah.
I just want to say that embrace your second chance. Because what's funny is that I wouldn't change it. You know, some people can say, well, if there's a cure, would you take it? I wouldn't, because me looking at the people that I have helped, and when they was at their lowest, and then seeing them embracing and they becoming advocates, and you know, living life. I just seen so many people get married, and you know, just being that face of, okay, well, I'm positive, I'm married, and you know, and I have an amazing family and amazing career. You know, this has changed my life. My diagnosis has become my career. So just embrace it.
Change your life in a positive way. Because it changed mine in a positive way too. I wouldn't go back and change it either. It made me a stronger man than I ever thought I could be. Like, I didn't think that I would be able to get through my dad passing away and then this on top of it. And I made it through it all. I'm still pushing.
I didn't understand none of this when I first started, but like, I get it now. Like you said, I get it. I get it.
I mean, and then coming from a spiritual background, and you know, my mother knew, oh, you're gonna be a preacher. You know, I just see it, and you know, what you see is me helping I'm saving lives and changing lives, but just not the way that you thought I would.
Right.
So
that's true.
You know, what does the scripture say? Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Right. And you don't know how long the night is, but when you turn that corner, this is joy.
Right.
You know, I had to walk that journey to get to this place, and it doesn't mean that there's not another journey ahead of me. It just means that I'm in this place, and in this place, I get to help other people who are in the middle of their night. So like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, at AOC.org is our website. We're here when you need us. The doors are always open. We look forward to seeing you.